class situation. So I just have 6 volunteers. Come on. Yeah. So if you can just come what did you say?
I'm good at that.
So that we're going to challenge those notions of good at math and bad at math and average at math. That's what we're going to go with. Okay. So 6 people. If you can just pair up. So 2 people here, 2 people here, 2 people here. Yeah, you can introduce yourselves. If you can just be here in the middle of the room, I request you to be seated. If you can be seated too. In pairs. Okay. So, this is a math class, and it's not really critical whether it's a public school, a so-called progressive school, or a so-called Krishnamurthy school. Not really, it doesn't matter. What's happening is there's a discussion of odd and even numbers, right? So we're looking at 6. We're looking at whether 6 is odd or even. Public classroom setting. So I've just gone through this exercise. I've sort of explained as the teacher. I've even gotten down on my knees. It's a small project-based learning group, small classroom, not this horrendous public school that we monsterized. And we've really sort of looked at small groups, and we're figuring out whether 6 is odd and even. We're using lots of progressive education techniques. What happens is, in the classroom, we've got this way of approaching things. So we'll circle up pairs like this. Say these 2. This is actually from a concrete classroom example. So I want to tell you what happens. So the students, we circle out pairs like this. Circle out another pair like this. Circle out another pair like this. There's no odd person left out. So 6 is even. So classroom's going on, and the teacher says, now, is 6 odd or even? Most students, all the smart students who are good at math, put up their hands. 6 is even. And for a whole host of reasons, including some students starts off by saying, we've practiced on video. 6 is all, what's your name by the way?
Neil.
Neil. I know Neil is good at math, so 6 is all, but he seems to be saying even, so I'm going with Neil. Even. So all kinds of reasons students are figuring out ways to detect what the probable right answer would be. The exercise in the class is to figure out that 6 is even. So start with all even. Another one is to actually figure out from the expression on my face whether odd or even is the right answer. So you start by saying 6 is all
Even.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much. Right? Now, one of the students, the outlier, the so-called student, the so-called student who we have decided isn't very good at math. The student says 6 is both odd and even. Teacher looks, and it's not. Nobody is to blame in this unfolding tragedy. I think that's the key point. Teacher looks at the watch. How many times have we done this before? We've gone through this over and over again. We've said, we circle out the pairs. If there's no odd person left out, it's even. This kid just doesn't get it. So Tom, 6 is odd and even. Odd and even. He just doesn't get it. Really sad. Maybe math isn't his subject. Maybe, Tom, I think he'd be good at art. But still, our school doesn't focus only on academics. It focuses on relationships. So academics isn't quite the thing for him. And emaciated understanding of mathematics, learning, and academics renders him as a poor student. Another classroom, 20 years ago. So this video has been studied by some of my friends, Eva and another friend, Jason. They've looked at it really closely, second by second. And actually, in this transcript, further, something else ensues. So because the teacher again explains this process and says, well, what you do is you don't count Because he said you can say that. He said odd and even. How did you say it was odd? Because what he did, and he explains, you draw a circle around the pairs. There's no person left out, but there are 3 such circles.
Yeah, right.
So he has already a sense of odd and even. But in this rendition, where 6 is even, he is the kid who doesn't get odd and even. He doesn't get it, so we have to help him. We have to have special education help. We have to make sure that his learning disability is fixed. Now comes the really interesting question. In the classroom, the teacher says, looks at the watch, exasperation, I don't know what to do. And I am with that teacher all the way. And because we've gone through a class, we're looking at odd and even, and this kid just doesn't get it. What am I to do? Even in a small classroom setting. So he says, you can say that, but don't count, makes up a rule. Remember the rule? When you draw the circles, you only count the people. There's no odd person left out. You don't count the circles. And in the background, in a quiet voice, the kid says, but then you can have 2 circles of 3 people, right? 2 pairs of 3. And in this case, if you counted only the people, not only it's odd 2 times around. There's an odd person here and there's an odd person in this circle, right? So it's odd and even again. Which is how it looks. It still doesn't get it. Remember the rule. If you draw, you just start with pairs. You draw a circle around every pair. You don't draw a circle around 3 people. We don't know why, but that's not what you do. And if you have no odd person out, it's even. 20 years before this, in a classroom with a math teacher, her name is Deborah Ball, what she does is very interesting. She says her aim in the classroom is not to get students to say 6 is even. That is not her aim in the classroom. But at the same time, her aim is not to abscond her responsibility to engage with mathematics and to engage with the world and figuring out stuff. So she's not saying academics, oh, it's all just academics, it's all just intellectual. She's saying, I want to engage with mathematical thinking with my kids. I want to think. So she says, my task as a teacher is not to get the kids to say 6 is even. My task is to keep my ears to the ground and my eyes on the mathematical horizon. My intent is to keep my ears to the ground and eyes to the mathematical horizon. This is what she does. She gets a whole discussion going about odd and even numbers. The kids are quarreling, they're arguing about it. And one of the kids says, that can't be true. Because the next number, 8, will be even and even, and also the next number, 10, is odd and even as well, and we know, I know, that 10 is not odd and even, it's even. And the discussion continues after the transcript, long ways down. By the way, I'm supposed to have done advanced math. I'm supposed to have done calculus. And I am really struggling looking at this transcript, and I'm constantly making this diagnosis. The kid just doesn't get it. This kid, after all this, just doesn't get it. Deborah's response, by the way, is very different. She keeps saying, I don't get it. Maybe if I listen more carefully, I will figure out what the kid is thinking. Few lines down the transcript, Deborah says they throw away the odd and even, getting that 6 is even as the point of the exercise. And they begin to look at what numbers have this peculiar property of being odd and even. So she goes back home, she goes back, looks at set theory, stuff that she's with. This is 3rd grade math, by the way. Looks at set theory, and she says, okay, you have 10 is the other number that's odd and even, because 8 we know is even and even. So they do a whole series of, now we can call it Tom's numbers or Sean numbers, which have this peculiar property of being odd and even at the same time. So they investigate series, set theories. What does it mean when you actually draw a circle around? What is a circle when you draw a circle around 2 members? When you draw a circle around 3 members? What's the difference between the members and the circle? So they're into really interesting math. Just from listening to the kind of thinking that the student is engaged in. Now, if we have an emaciated version of academics, big classroom, small classroom, whatever it is, and if the point of the exercise is to get to 6 is even, it's the deck is stacked straight away. That's the object of the exercise. And we can sort each other out into who's good at math, who's good academically, who's intellectually poor, who's lovely in relationship. We can do that kind of sorting out instantaneously. If the object isn't to sort each other out in terms of this destination, the whole landscape changes. Okay, so thanks. So now we'll do something where we can actually play with this link. So you can stand up. Thanks for sitting.
Next question. Obviously.
Oh, that kid at that point in time had figured out before for that kind of stuff. Yes. So just provisioning the kids. But then I know what means. So how are you saying it's ordinary? So that's what's happening with the kid. Yeah. No thanks. That's Jeff asked, how is it obvious that 10 is even? So I was just saying that classroom for that kid. He was contesting this. He was saying 10 is odd and even because that's something he had just figured out. Right? So he was saying the implications of your thinking is that the next number that's going to be odd and even is 10. And I'm a bit worried because I've already figured out that 10 is even. So hang on a minute, what's going on? So that was the thing.
Anybody else missing the point of that? It's just me. Just me, okay.
No, let's.
I think the odd and even thing, I totally get with that kid. Yeah, I totally get it. Seven would be our next odd and even. I didn't understand your question. What was your question?
Please.
Yeah.
I don't even understand the question, but I'm not quite sure what Gopal is getting at here in a large sense. Like 10 is an even number.
Oh.
So that's my upbringing, that's my mission.
Oh.
Even though 10 has 5 sets of 2 in it, the 5 is uneven, I don't understand is there a problem here?
Are you saying that the 5 doesn't count?
The what doesn't?
The 5 doesn't count?
I think it's a general consensus to society that 10 is an even number.
Traditionally, odd and even is very simplistically looked at as, is it divisible even by an integer value multiple of 2, right? But on a more multidimensional level,
Right.
8 is solely divisible by multiples of 2 and 1, and 1 doesn't count as even and odd apparently. So it seems to me that some kids, this is hard to say, their mind doesn't work on the simplistic level.
Right.
They're seeing things in so many dimensional levels, and their natures, and I know I'm like that.
Yeah.
That my nature is to see things from so many points of view at once, to try to flatten it out to one stereotypical linear view.
Yeah.
I feel kind of robbed of the richness of the world that I want to live, and therefore, why don't you go do art? Because I can totally identify with that, right? But that's, because I study, I've tutored calculus, I understand all this stuff, but there's this part of me that's like, why is there such an insistence in the educational world, all the way through college, all the way through graduate or whatever work, to life to be simple and linear, so that it almost seems like even and odd becomes a level of trying to get all of humanity to think evenly.
Right.
When my nature is a bit odd
Yes.
from that point of view.
I love it.
And then I also feel almost like the pressure of the teacher that's been inculcated with this idea that we're getting somewhere in a classroom. If I'm successful, these students need to have these definitions that are held collectively in society as truths. And so if this child doesn't get this truth, I'm deficient. So I feel the pressure as an educator to mold, even my thinking, to not go there. Because, I'm on the spot. This truth I'm holding is like a golden rule. I can't question that in front of them. I'm going to look incompetent. There's a whole stream of that I can feel that pressure. The teacher's like, I just don't get it. Or even this idea of like, this is third grade math, being exposed to Montessori education, so there's a concept that you expose 3-year-olds to this kind of thinking mathematically. Other concepts, you wouldn't do that until the kid's developmentally ready. So there's all these stuff going on here, and you're in charge of all these little lines, and it's like, I feel for the teacher too, that have that passion to part the golden rule or something. You know?
A big motivator seems to be reportability.
Right.
But effectively tested reportability statistics that are going to roll up to the state level where you can get the funding and that.
That's so
Well,
funny.
okay, whole host of issues.
Yes.
The one thing I want to really make visible here is this conversation was, in some sense, initiated by Jeff.
Yeah.
A different rendition of the classroom is Jeff didn't get it.
Yeah.
Jeff, I explained it so brilliantly. It was so brilliant, my explanation. Jeff, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, he's not in the academic.
He's not an academic type.
Yeah.
I've heard him before. It's really interesting. If we're really alert to making our thinking visible to each other, that's one kind of a problem we have. And if we make our thinking accountable to each other, that's a different kind of problem. Not that you have to make your thinking about math, odd and even, or about this whole discussion visible to me. What's of interest to me is whether or not you got it.
Right.
And I know what the it is that needs to be gotten. Right? It's a different version of accountability. And it's not just standardized testing. I think that they're red herrings. It's not standardized testing. It's not state standards. We do this in small classrooms, progressive education mechanism, Krishnamurthy schools, because the complaints, the basic complaint is not, that hasn't been dismantled. The basic complaint is, I have configured this destination so clearly, so beautifully, so magnificently as the expert and the teacher, and the poor kids don't get it.
So what's the ultimate sacrifice being paid?
Wow.
What's really happening? What are we really suffering as a result of that linear thinking?
Wow. Good question.
I'm not going to answer it. I mean,
I first thought I had was creativity. You're going to rob the person from their natural mindset to explore in a creative fashion, and they're going to collapse to expectation.
Or feel excluded, ostracized.
Yeah.
You said the word stereotype, and I think this is what it does. It turns things into black and white.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that expands to the whole of life.
Right.
Bad and good, right and wrong.
Right.
Black and white.
Well, there's immediate contraction that takes place with that human being instead of expansion.
And the replacement of what you called consensus for original thought, so a relationship to that which one is learning. I have a feeling of math in my body, or I've memorized what people have told me is the right thing to think.
And I just want to draw from that notion and push a little bit at this notion of consensus, because it's a very popular notion. Consensus as a safe, caring space where I get to decide what the caring response is and what the disruptive response is. So the consensus, in this kind of configuration of consensus, he's actually not cooperating with the consensus. We were all going to figure out a way to agree that my point was brilliant and it was all clear, and there is this guy who's actually destroying the consensus. That's a really emaciated version of consensus.
So it's really all about you.
It's about me.
Yeah, and you're causing
Very narcissistic.
you're causing fragmentation, and in that fragmentation, it seems the big resulting emotion is shame.
Yeah.
The individual feels, I just can't naturally come to consensus. I have to force myself. Therefore, there's something odd or different or broken about me, and then I come to believe I'm missing something, the capacity to deal on a flat plane level with other kids. And I'm afraid.
Okay, just one request. So
Sorry.
I'll just, no, that's part of the conversation. I'll just do one other activity and then let's open it up again, if that's okay with everyone.
The same six.
No, that's not already. I just like people I just like people to just get up, because I think we sit for a long time sometimes. Just get up and please take just 5 steps. 5 steps. Only requirement, 5 steps, whatever space, whatever. Take 5 steps, please. If you take more steps, that's okay. If you take less steps, I'd like you to, then if people can just pair up, and if you can just share what happened when you took those 5 steps with each other, just for 1 minute each, what you saw, what you were aware of when you took those 5 steps, to share with your partner, what happened.
I was aware trying to take 5 steps. And then
I felt a little anxiety. Used to. I don't have space. I just want to be able to get there. It's weird.
That's great.
Okay, so just a request. I'm going to actually have another small activity. Where's Brendan? Okay, Brendan's here, Amanda's here, and there's Tanya. I'm requesting them to participate. By the way, what time is it? 11:10. Okay, right. So now, in sort of what we call normal life kind of situation and conversation, if I asked you what time is it, and you said it's 11:10, I would say thank you because I needed to know that it was 11:10. Now, peculiarly in a classroom situation, something really interesting happens. We look frame by frame, second by second classroom situations. And I do this thing. As a teacher, I initiate a question, I elicit a response, and I evaluate it. So I say to you, well done. Great, can you all say she can tell the time? And she was so quick, right? If the activity is being able to tell the time correctly. Or I do something, if it's not explicit, implicitly by turn taking, till I get the answer that I need, I would say, what time is it? What time is it? Can you try, please? So here is something really bizarre we haven't encountered in so-called real-life situations we encounter in classrooms, where I'm constantly asking questions to which I know the answer. And your job is to figure out quicker than the others what I want, what answer I have in mind, what's supposed to be the right answer, and quicker than the others. So you have this flurry of hands saying me first, not to say I don't follow or stop, I can't understand what's going on, but to demonstrate successful understanding and knowledge. I know, and sometimes you'll find hands go up even before the question is asked.
Right.
Right? I know. Small classrooms, big classrooms, Krishnamurthy schools, non-Krishnamurthy schools, whatever it is. This configuration of asking no information questions is so deep-rooted in what we do as classroom activity. Here's a version of it that actually builds on classes itself. How classrooms configure. This point that Holly raised, I think. 3rd grade. If you can just stand, so they're going to help me. I, of course, am on the pedestal. And I have my toolkit, which is I have my books on advanced calculus. I have years of experience in mathematics and getting things right. So I'm going to ask you, let's start. We start with the basics, right? Condescending ones. We start with the basics. Let's start with the basics. So I'm going to ask the three of you. I'm going to ask you, what is 45 plus 7? We start with addition first. We always know that, right? Addition, everybody clear? We start with 45 plus 7. Sorry? 52. 45 plus 7, 52. She's good. That was quite quick. Come on. Can you just advance one step? Can you all actually go to where Liz is? Can you go to where Liz is? Can you go to where Liz is? Can you advance one step? Can you just a little, not so much. You're not that good. Oh. Now, what is 75? And Brendan and Tanya might need some extra help, but we'll just check it out. 75 plus 22. Let's give them a chance. I know you're the fast student. Let's also give them a chance. Yes.
97.
97. That's brilliant. Come on, Brendan. You can also come forward. I think Tanya is struggling a little bit. We have to really focus on teaching her addition. We have to make sure she's going to get addition. Tanya doesn't get to go to the next class or the next level. She's there. We'll give her a lot of extra help. We'll put lots of funding. We'll get the special ed people to help her. And let's now ask the next question. And this is really the test to see if one of these two will qualify for GATE. And this time, because they got addition done, what's the next thing we do in math?
Subtraction.
Which one?
Multiplication.
No.
Subtraction.
Subtraction.
Oh, yeah.
You're forgetting.
I step back.
So it's subtraction. After addition comes subtraction. So we're going to give them a question subtraction. 76 minus 13. That she was very quick, but being quick isn't all the time the way to get the right answer. So would you like to try?
63.
Now, he took his time, he did some real mathematical thinking, and he got the right answer.
Should I step back?
So you can stay where you are. You don't have to stay back. You can stay where you are. You're okay with addition. You're just struggling with subtraction. But maybe he can come in. Now he's ready for multiplication. And if you can place yourselves on a straight line here.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. So she's still at addition. She can't come to multiplication. Suppose I ask, what's the next one? 3 multiplied by 2. All of you, 3 multiplied by 2?
6.
Sorry, you can't do multiplication. We still have to have, you can't even do subtraction, you can't jump to multiplication. That's just not, she hasn't gotten subtraction, and she already, so it doesn't count. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really, only Brandon gets to answer that question. Because we know that she's at addition, she's at subtraction, he's at multiplication, division, long division, fractions, and then comes pre-calculus and calculus. And at the end of calculus, I'm here with all the knowledge. I've attained the highest level. And the object of the exercise is to make sure they come along this trajectory to where I am, to this fixed point where I am. And the conversation, educational conversation, isn't very different. As long as the objective is to get to this fixed point, we can have conversations about different trajectories, a progressive trajectory, a small classroom trajectory, but the object of the exercise, or a conventional classroom where we do a standardized kind of testing and we sort kids this way. But if you say the object isn't to get students to this point, the conversation is completely different. Because when she got the so-called wrong answer, what was the first answer? Do you remember, Tanya? Can we come around? What's the first answer? Okay, let's take another question. 47 plus 7. How did you work it out? Do you know how she worked it out? Do you know how she worked it out? We've got to figure out a way to understand her thinking. It's shoulder to shoulder, and the right answer and the wrong answer isn't what counts. And it's not that this is an easy option, because I've got to really figure out, I've got to get here, even whether she likes it or not, and really, she's got to actually make visible her thinking. And it may not be the easy option, but it's really important for me to figure out how we're going to think about this, how you're going to think about this, how you're going to think about this. Completely different conversation. Okay, let's just open it up again to conversation. And I want to
I noticed my emotional response to being a participant but not a vocal participant, because I was doing the math in my mind. And so there was a part of me that felt competitive, and then affinity with the one who got the wrong answer. Like I went through this whole host of emotional responses as a classroom kid, you know, not even being targeted for a response, but it's like, I'm cleverer than her. I put myself in that line. Like it's so suggestive. The power of suggestion, of thinking a certain way, was so much a part of the climate of what was created. You know, not even so. Maybe a teacher's not even seeing all the other people in the room that are doing that. I don't know. It was really fascinating to watch my own. Like that was just an example, but I took it seriously, you know, oh no, she's in the middle, she can't get it right, well I got it right, and all that stuff was happening just, and this is a container to explore that, but I was doing it over here, like, in real time.
And I'm also just curious how it felt for Tanya and Brendan and Amanda. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I agree with you, because I know right now in geometry, our class is kind of competitive so you can get the answer, but if somebody gets it wrong, we don't take the time to say, I wonder how she got that answer. We just know how we got it, and we don't take the time to actually listen to each other and try to take the time and say, well, you know, if you do it like this, you know, maybe we switch this around, but we're just in our own heads, like, well, I got the answer, so that's all that matters. You know, I'm gonna get a good grade on this test. So what you say is kind of doesn't matter right now, because I know how to do it.
Yes.
The moment you said, okay, we're gonna do some math, and then you said, what is my heart construct?
I got a question of what's your name, Mark?
John?
John, you seem kind of savvy about this, and yet I'm wondering what your response was when Gopal said, "What's the next easiest thing to do?" And you said notification.
Yeah.
Just
Why did they go to multiplication?
what happened? Yeah, no, just what happened for you when that happened.
What exactly happened?
Well, obviously it didn't connect with it. But anyway, he said, no, that wasn't the right answer. The next one is subtraction.
Well, when I got it wrong?
If I were a teacher, I said, obviously it's.
I was really embarrassed.
No, that's not right.
No, I was really embarrassed. It's like, wait a minute, I'm smarter than that. I can do that.
For a moment, I thought you denied it was all kind of denied.
Oh no, and it's like, oh God, I feel shame. This is terrible. Got it out of order.
But I mean, so what I want that helps me out is what I want. My intention may not have been to shame you,
No, I don't think it was.
right? But that could be the consequence of the way I've configured that.
Your
Because
intention often doesn't matter.
the intention doesn't matter because the object has been that I have charted out this path in this particular way, and you have just fallen out of the path.
I felt like my thinking wasn't aligned with yours, so I failed.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It also kind of like the tragedy of the massive misunderstanding that the teacher's going through, because yeah, I messed up that subtraction, but you didn't know that maybe I was subtracting bigger numbers in my head than first 5, then 5, oh yes, 63. I could have just been like, okay, let me see if I can do this number minus like 13. I've never done that. Let's see if I can just do that. No, I got 60. Too bad, but Brandon's rewarded because he may have gotten to it to a very simpler way. He might have done it used smaller numbers to get to the. But actually, when he gets to multiply, but when you ask the multiplication question, I came first. I need that first. So it's a big deal. I know 2 times 3 is 6, of course, but I just thought it was
So am I hearing you right in saying, so the object, what sorts you out is not only that you get to this destination, but that the object is that who gets to the right answer quickest is also, because even if you had said 60, if we had figured out your thinking, you might have got that 63 much later, but that doesn't count.
Right.
Because the quickest answer that you got is what counts.
Right.
But if you're stuck with it, your 63, your 61st and 63 might have actually been more interesting because we might have stumbled along different things in different ways if the trajectory wasn't to get here. Right? So we might have actually gone back, like we did with the walking, you might have walked forward, you might have actually stayed around for a long time, you just really stuck with 60. I can't see a way out of the 60. I've come to 60, and after that I don't know what happens with that carryover business. I'm really stuck, which is a very different kind of puzzle.
Right.
But if the object is to get to this point first, and quicker than the others, then the whole thing is reconfigured. Yeah, just one point, and then I want to open it up so it's different. One is if this was the object, if getting to a fixed point was the object, and me being at the top was the object, then the conversation around this whole enterprise becomes all parts are valid. Let's be flexible with your path, your path, your path. Let's be tolerant of each other's paths. But what's not on the table is who gets to decide that this is the fixed destination. This is truth at the end of it. And this kind of tolerance is really a kind of intolerance. Because what is not tolerated in this conversation is that what is any challenge to the fact that I get to decide that this is the destination. That challenge is not tolerated in this configuration. Because anything that goes off the path, I can say, please tolerate Tom's path, please hold your path more flexibly, lightly. Both of you learn to respect each other's ways. But what's not on the table is the fact that this destination is not for review.
And so if I say, I could care less about your destination.
You're out. You are the outlier, you're the rebel, You're the student who's got behavioral difficulties.
Yep.
That's all I'm thinking the whole time is, why do I care about addition? Why would, as a student, I just have, I have to be good at math, or I have to get good grades at math, but I could care less about it. I could care less about geometry and all that. So what good is it? It only becomes mildly interesting at a certain point, but so for me, I'm watching all this going, okay, so we've got the destination, we've got the linear thing, and it's like, and I don't care about any of it.
Well,
So now, as a teacher, how do you engage that?
so there's I'll give you one response. Well, here he goes again, asking his awkward question. What good is math? You want to be flipping burgers all your life?
I don't know. I'm 5 years old.
I love burgers.
Do you want to stay back in grade 4
Well, I know, but that's the
all the
standard
time
spiel.
instead of going on to grade 5? He's preparing for dropout.
Well, yeah, and at the same time, most of the geniuses never finish school. So where does that come into play for a teacher?
Well, some of those geniuses actually, in my school, it actually happened. Well, he would go up there, he actually went up there and pushed the guy off the.
The letter,
Yeah,
the pencil.
he actually beat him up with his fists.
What?
Yeah, that's what happened in my school. And, and that's what, I think that's the extreme of
Right.
what this causes. The far end, they just get really, just on. I'm a bit concerned about this. I'd really like to be asked if anyone's uncomfortable about
So please,
development.
would anyone like to?
Yeah, I would appreciate this being.
It is already though, Matt.
Oh, is it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is.
Yep.
Just let me just ask you a question about this, because this is what I've
I
been.
want-
Sorry, just one second. Let's just get space for the next question.
No, it's okay. I'm just concerned because
Your hand is great though.
again, it's part of the whole syndrome. We all sit down and do what the teacher tells us. So I'm just questioning.
Good question.
Are you okay with it, Jeff, now?
I'm
you prefer
really
it?
comfortable, but I'm okay if that's what's needed to be done.
Okay, we're happy to.
I mean, for me, I like to share what's happening. But I have it, I don't know if we can.
Well, let me just ask you, because this is what I've been wondering about. So let's say, for example, if we want to say, I'm trying to tie what you said up there and then what you just said. So if you say, let's be tolerant of different paths. So if somebody says, oh, the answer is 60, and let's say they did it, but in your head you're thinking, well, it's 63, right? You've done about it. So then you say, tell me how you got to 60. And then the person starts going through, kind of like what you said, tell me about your thought process. That could be really enlightening, and in fact, you could decide, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, and that's another way of doing it. So that seems interesting and good. If it's a problem like 60 plus 3, right? And then the student is saying, it's 64, and you say, tell me about your thinking. It seems to me, there's not that many areas where there actually is a right and a wrong answer. There's a lot of flexibility. But in math, the answer is 63. Well, can I just tie it to what you just said now? Now you could say, I don't care about math. So then let's say you get a job on a Saturday mowing the lawn, right? And the person says, I'll give you $20 to mow this lawn. You say, great. And you mow the lawn, you're working all day, and at the end, they give you $15. And you say, didn't we agree on 20? And they say, 15, 20, same diff. And you say, no, not same diff, 5 diff, right?
Bingo. Now all of a sudden you care.
Well, yeah, so what I'm saying is, so you could say, I don't care about your answer, but it seems to me it could be something like the frame hasn't been the environment hasn't been framed such that you can say, no, actually, you do probably care about it, right?
Well, in a sense, the only time I found learning anything empowering or that I liked it was when it actually applied to something in my life. I was like, wow, okay, cool, now I understand how this works.
Right.
Sort of like, oh, God, I got screwed out of $5 because I didn't understand that. How's this addition thing work? Can you go over that just one more time?
Just one worry I'll articulate with the with the word application.
Okay.
And it's a worry I also want to extend to this worry about Krishnamurthy. So the argument goes, Krishnamurthy spoke about his philosophical stuff. He wasn't really a classroom teacher. So we need some concrete ways to apply what he said to the classroom. So we need some kinds of method, we need some kind of rubric, some kinds of principles. You go to a Buddhist school, you find mindfulness, cooperation, blah, blah, blah. You need some kind of application. What we've done with that version is we've still said there is a kind of destination and we have to apply it to real life. The kids will smell it. So if I still wanted you to get to the right answer, but I used lawn mowing as an example because I knew you were into that lawn mowing situation, the kid will smell it like that. But what has happened is, when I use the word application, I've used this a real concern in education, which is a concern that it's got to be relevant to your life. I have to figure out what is the relevance of mathematics to your life, which is what your question was. Why do I need to care about this stuff? But if I then pretend that the destination is, if I still have the destination is important, then I pretend that I'm going to apply it. I use, do you like horse riding? Should we try and do math where we talk about horses? The kid smells that. A relevance question has been shifted to an application question. Again, what's not on the table is you need to get to that end. Which is why, Jeff's example of that guy knocking him off the pedestal was vivid, because in this example, I'm still not knocked off the pedestal. And the right answer, which you raised, Andy, was, which is what Deborah Ball's response 20 years ago is different, is it's not that 6 is odd and even, but your thinking about it is really important, because mathematical thinking is really important. And it's not that kid sits deliberately and says, okay, let me figure out a way to get the wrong answer. No kid actually does that unless they want to use that to make some kind of statement. Sorry, go ahead, please. Yeah, I interrupted, but go ahead. You were saying something. Cut you off. You, I think it was you were saying. Yeah.
Well, somebody else wanted to say something.
Sorry.
No, it's really something because how about the quote unquote peer pressure that she kind of brought up a little bit? I mean, you seem like you're talking a lot about the relationship with the teacher and the position of the teacher being the kind of knowing. The student wanted to be there, but what about how do you create an environment where we can explore a wrong answer without having, if I imagine me, giving the wrong answer and the teacher opening up to see how I got the wrong answer, all those kids around, the student my age, would be, I would be just like, oh, can I go into the corner, please? With my wrong answer.
So you can talk about judgment.
I don't know. So how do you?
Yeah, but I'm saying that it's not just, it's a peculiar thing. It's not that there is anybody to blame, but the way I framed it, right? Whether the teacher is doing the discrimination or your peers are doing it, it doesn't amount to the same, because it's clear that there is one right answer, it's fixed, and students measure up only insofar as how far along they are to that. So I won't do it. I won't get up that pedestal, but we'll all sit in the back, and every step you take will say, Liz. There she goes again. How much time are we going to waste? While we sit with Liz doing it, right?
I remember that's what I'm giving
It's
myself.
a subtle violence.
Yeah.
What did you say?
A subtle form of violence.
Yeah, that's when I became mute.
So I'm just suggesting a brief break, because I'd also like to stretch and use the restroom a bit. And then let's just come back and really get into a discussion. I've got some few reading materials and to really go at it. And I also want I have some questions which I really appreciate your challenging it and helping to take the conversation. That's lovely. And let's make it a circle because then so we can get we can see each other. And we can get rid of the ladder. So 5 minutes. 5 minutes, okay? 5 minute break. 11:36, 11:40.
Are you gonna stay? If you stay, I'll stay. Peer pressure. I know what you're talking about.
New York City, and just think less, you end up in New York City then. I so she drew a circle on the ground, and she said, okay, she marked the next one, she said, okay, now, leave New York City and go around the earth, and I just went straight across. You know, and then she said, no, you walk around it. Yeah, all of a sudden,
How was that process?
that was oh my God. So I always think you guys are going to go really enough to that.
That's pretty good. Well, so we've got, listen
Well, like, what I was thinking, no, this is what you're saying too. I was thinking, okay, 2 examples. One example is when you start to he's thinking, what if it's the same thing that's making this go so easy to like it's the same numbers that's keeping them there. It's kind of like crazy notion. I mean, we know it's gravity, right? But it's also, so I'd say, well, what if all the difficulties that all of these situations are having the same right seems to act, I need to and the right also seems to act anyway, and it took some like